So Kunal needs no introduction. He's founder and CEO of Snapdeal, and all of us know about Snapdeal. And we have been at least when I started my first startup, Citrus. Snapdeal was already in existence, and from then till now, I would say Kunal has been one of the inspiration figure for me. So Kunal, welcome on board on to the talk show,
Thanks,
and
Jitesh. Thanks, man.
looking forward. So Kunal, today how we are gonna conduct the session is we are sort of gonna dig deeper into your mind, your experience, and some emotions. So we expect you to be as frank as possible, and wherever you feel uncomfortable, just say it, and I would skip it. But I think audience want to know those uncomfortable situations. So are you okay with that?
Anything for you, Jitesh.
Great, Kunal. So Kunal, let's sort of rewind back to where you started and how you started. So 2009 you started, right? Or 2007 you started?
Yeah, 2007 September was when Rohit.
2007 September. And before that, I read and I remember hearing you earlier. So you were a Wharton grad, and you were working for Microsoft. And I remember in one of the interactions you were telling me that you were facing some H-1B visa issue, and that's why you decided to come back to India. And then this whole Snapdeal idea came to reality. So like what went into deciding this Snapdeal idea? Like it was a deal site or offer site, if I remember correctly. So what went into deciding that?
Yeah, firstly, Jiten, great to be here and great to be with the Jupiter community. I can never say no to you. So the moment you asked, I said yes, as you know. And I'm glad to be here. Actually, I wish the history of Snapdeal was as straightforward as you are painting it out to be, but because it has been over time, histories do get oversimplified. I came back to India because my H-1B visa application was rejected. And so I had to come back. And so that's why I came back. And the first thing I did was I called my best friend from school, Rohit, who was at IIT, and I had joined Capital One, and he left his job. And we actually started as a coupon book business. There's no internet, no website, no e-commerce.
Wow.
It was actually a physical coupon book, like a magazine where you tear the coupons, and and we thought it would become a large business, and it did not. So we pivoted that business into an SMS-based coupon type service, and that also didn't do particularly well. It was doing well till it was free, and the moment we asked people to pay, nobody wanted to pay. Then we pivoted that to a discount card business. That started doing okay. But I think the real inflection point was when we took all the learnings for almost like 2.5 years of just chasing one or the other business model of couponing and have all those coupons become available on an e-commerce platform, which is when we launched Snapdeal in February of 2010. And it was very similar to Groupon, which was on fire those days. And at least I tried to say that, look, we didn't copy Groupon. We were already in the couponing business, but fair to say that we did take some inspiration from them.
Right.
So that's how Snapdeal actually started. And then I think 2 years after that, we pivoted, did a very hard pivot of moving away from the coupons business, online coupons business. Even though we were the largest player in that space, we had raised like lots of money, and everyone thought we were a very successful company. But we pivoted out of that business into building a marketplace for physical products, which at the time everyone thought was a ridiculously bad idea. But we had significant conviction in the fact that I think we had more conviction in the fact that the online coupons business will not work versus having conviction in the fact that the marketplace for products will work. But as time passed, I think our conviction in the marketplace for products grew, and many years hence we are here today.
Interesting. And I think when you decided to sort of move into marketplace for the physical goods, like I'm sure this was a big mindset shift, and like you have to set up operations, supply chain, warehouses, and all of those kind of crazy things, which I still dread of, frankly. I don't think I have that appetite to deal with that. So like, when an entrepreneur thinks such a drastic shift, like what goes into the mind, and how do you take such decisions so swiftly?
I think again, I feel that when it is happening, you have to take quick decisions because you have no other option. I feel that all great things happen somewhere in the middle of method and madness. So I can't say we only followed method, neither can I say we were only following madness. But I think somewhere in the middle there was obviously a lot of chaos, a lot of entropy, but we had a clear view on what we were building. So whatever came in our way, we just problem solved every day. And we never let ourselves get too overwhelmed by the magnificence of the problem. Because then you can lose all motivation and all inspiration if you keep worrying about how large the problem is. But you're absolutely right. Like running an e-commerce company in India is the same as running like 10 businesses in one business. You have
Yeah.
customer care, you have supply chain, you have technology, you have product, you have data science, you have so many different functions. You have category management, you have sellers. It's almost like building multiple companies in one company, and you got to get good at almost everything. Obviously, you won't be good at everything, but you try. Um, and you will have a lot of wounds along the way in trying to get good at so many things so quickly. But I feel that in the end, your greatest powers as a company come from your greatest wounds. So if you keep getting wounds but don't die as a result of those wounds, you will get stronger. And as you go from failure to failure to failure, somewhere you'll start seeing success also.
Interesting. No wonder, Kunal, that this is not my cup of tea. I've already got my hair gray while you are still keeping it black. So
It's
I can now see I can see the reason now.
it's the latest Zoom effect that hasn't been launched yet. Uh, Eric gave it to me specially.
That's nice to know. I'll ping you for that. So so moving on, Kunal. So I remember if you remember correctly, in December 14, we sort of accidentally bumped into you in Airtel lobby. Remember that meeting where you had just finished meeting with Nikesh and you had come down, and Bhavish was also along with you, and I was sort of saying hi. I was going to meet Nikesh at that point of time. So like you got all of these marquee investors, SoftBank and Temasek, and like you named the investors, and they were on your cap table. So I'm sure the things were going, things were very exuberant for you. Things were going very, very right for you. Like, what was really going well that all of these investors you were able to attract so easily? Like, I could not crack that code ever.
I think, yeah, I neither do I want to take all the credit for it. So, I think fundraising is always aggrandized so much because somewhere I feel fundraising gives a lot of pleasure to people. I don't think it gives to entrepreneurs, at least. I don't think it gives happiness. It gives a lot of pleasure,
True.
and hence people like to. I think true happiness comes with building a profitable business, which you have also done.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really brings true happiness. But I feel, but given fundraising is an important topic of building these businesses, we can talk about it for a few minutes. I feel at that moment in time there was a window in the Indian internet ecosystem, particularly e-commerce ecosystem, where the market was very cluttered when we had entered in 2013, 2012. It had become less cluttered because I think the market was starting to form some tent poles around 2 or 3 years. Um, China had been very, very successful. China e-commerce had been very successful in the lead up to those few years. So everyone was looking at India as the next China. And then there were only a few companies with good management team, good action that investors were getting attracted to. We also, I mean, look, we were not the first e-commerce company. We may have been, I don't know, the 20th or the 30th
Yeah.
e-commerce company in India, even when we had started doing e-commerce. There were India Times, there was Rediff many years before us, there was Flipkart, which was going strong then, there was Mintra, there was Yebhi, there was Let's Buy. There were many, many,
Oh
many
yeah,
names.
yeah, yeah. I remember those.
Even I don't remember them. And so I think people realized that the companies that had broken out for a certain set of reasons, which was not only just cash burn. They had built some capabilities, they built a good team, they found some sort of product market fit. In our case, we had specifically created a lot of strength around the pioneering we had done on the marketplace model, where almost all companies back then, and to a great extent even right now, were mostly following what is called the first party e-commerce model, where they were buying inventory and reselling it in some structure, shape or form. And we were always a marketplace model, where we were not taking any inventory, purely asset light, low on cost base, etc. And a certain set of investors found that attractive. And obviously, a certain set of investors found the models that others were following attractive as well. And enough capital came into multiple different companies. I think it was I would say, Jiten, it was I would say 50% because of our company, because of our team, because of our traction. And I would say it'd be 50% because of the prevailing excitement around e-commerce in India in those days. So I don't think we can forego all the credit, neither can we take all the credit. So I wouldn't be too, I think you've done just fine, if I may say so. And you will do even better with Jupiter and henceforth. I don't think just because we raised a lot of money or others have raised a lot of money, that's any determinant of anything. I think it's just a function of market timing, space, traction. I don't think it's a representation of competence at all.
No, on that note, I remember, Kunal, very clearly that, we had so Citrus used to sort of provide the payment gateway service to online merchants. And we had one merchant called 70mm.com. And remember, 70mm.com was an online movie, the CD rental website. So they also moved to e-commerce. So like there was this madness going on. Almost like everybody wanted to do e-commerce. So, and in that era, sort of standing out and getting noticed, clearly the credit goes to you and your team, of course. So I would not sort of trivialize that by any standard. So Kunal, in your journey, I remember until 2015, if I remember, or 16, if I remember correctly, you acquired some 8 or 10 startups, and some were smaller ones, some were as large as Freecharge, like $450 million acquisition. So, like, what are your when you look back now? What are your learnings in those acquisitions? Forget whether it worked or not. I mean, that doesn't matter. But what were your top 3 learnings from those acquisitions? Like, what did you learn personally?
Yeah, I think I would say in general, I think our outcomes on acquisition were probably no different from outcomes of acquisitions of most companies around the world. Some
Right.
work, some are just about okay, and some don't work at all, right? I think we also similarly saw a spectrum of acquisitions. I would say there are few things that one has to keep in mind while doing acquisitions. One is there a strong synergy with your core business or not? Particularly for younger companies like what we were back then, uh, unless your own core is already very strong, which I feel strength is only determined by profitability, not strong in terms of your top line or your vanity metrics are growing very fast, or things are going well because you've created this, in a way, this success theater around the company in the press, right? So people think you're doing really well, but the reality may or may not be the same. But when I say things are going well in the core business, I mean that you're completely capital independent. I feel companies should attempt acquisitions only when they get to that point. I'm not saying that if they attempt acquisitions before they are profitable, it won't work. But at least one of the learnings I have is that I think it's much easier to patiently integrate companies into the core business if you are not always running on a clock, or you have a candle that's burning from both sides.
Hmm.
So I think that's number one. Number two, integrating teams is actually quite a challenge. Sometimes, in some cases, we were very successful, where many of our technology product leaders eventually came from some of these acquisitions, and some of them are still in the company. So I think those were very successful, but again, they don't always work. So spending more time, over time, we started spending more time figuring out cultural fit, which earlier we were only focusing on, is this business or technology useful for us? I think we started spending much more time. I would say 70% time about will these people fit in or not? Because I think that was the other big learning. Third, I would say try and acquire companies that are not cash hemorrhaging, because they just
Right.
add additional burden on not only do you want to integrate the company you bought successfully, but you also want to grow it. But if, again, you have this candle burning from both sides type of situation, not only in your core business, but in the business you acquire,
Right.
over a period of time, many of the, and that's, look, it's a broader industry problem at this point in time, where you have core businesses that may be not cash generating today, but then there are all these satellite businesses around it, which are also cash hemorrhaging. I feel that
Right.
founds the problem statement for a company, and distracts management to a great extent. So ideally, I would say in hindsight, one should, the learnings from hindsight would be to spend an enormous amount of time figuring out cultural fit. Do it only when you are completely capital self-sufficient, and try and avoid buying companies that are still losing money, or losing lots of money at least.
Got it. No, this is helpful, and I would sort of personally gone through an acquisition, and I think this is one of the core thing which we focused when we joined PayU. He said that we have to sort of turn the business profitable in next 2 years. So Amrish and I took the target, and we are happy that within 27 months, I think we were able to reach the target. And I think now you look at the PayU business, it becomes so strong in India. And when the business generates money, then you can do much more. Then you can many more things. So I think this is like pretty helpful advice. So I want to sort of move on to slightly tougher questions if you're ready. As I promised to audience that I'm going to put you into the tough spot as well. So so I think until 2015, you guys were growing like anything, and as if there's no tomorrow. You're going to win this today. I think that was the feeling or exuberance, right? What went wrong after that?
So, I don't think in any company at any point in time, everything is going right also. So, for instance, when you mentioned that in 2015 you were growing like anything, etc., if you pull off the covers, right, some things are obviously working quite well. Our brand was growing, a lot of recognition for the brand. We were building our technology really fast, so platform got built out really quickly. We're building some supply chain capabilities which we didn't have. However, we were also growing relentlessly on what I call a vanity metric, which is GMV, and that was, we are, I guess, first time entrepreneurs, and at that point in time we were still quite green, and we believed, and we were also made to believe that GMV is the right metric to chase, because that's how all the
Right.
validations were being done, all the fundraising was being done. And as a company, like all other companies in our space, everyone was very focused on just growing GMV at any cost. And I think what we realized at the end of 2015, that this was absolutely not sustainable. That if you don't make money on everything you sell, post all your variable expenses, eventually as you grow larger, your loss will expand. And if you're not able to raise money henceforth, you will run into a wall and the business will just die. And I think that realization dawned on us, I would say fairly, not very late into the journey of pursuing this GMV track. And towards the end of 2015, we started correcting that. We went through a period of significant correction. We cut our burn quite significantly within a 6-month period by almost half. But post that, what happened was that there was, and this is obviously in the public domain for the most part, and hence I'll just touch on it. There was also a period where it was not clear to us whether what we wanted to build with the business, which is a high quality, healthy unit economics business which is growing, is what we wanted to build. But in that era, which was still euphoric about GMV growth in the investor community, it wasn't clear whether all our investors were on the same page as what our focus was envisioned to be. And I think what happens is, and this is a good learning for any entrepreneur, it is very important to align objectives between investors and what your focus as a company and management is. Because if that diverges, then both sides sort of don't feel that the other is doing what needs to be done, right?
Right.
There's lack of alignment, which leads to ugliness potentially. So I feel that we got into that zone, that we went very quickly from a phase of this, relentless GMV growth at any cost, to very quickly into the zone of let's grow with sane unit economics. And even if we have to cut our scale by a little bit or cut our growth by a lot in the meanwhile, that's okay, because we're building a lasting, enduring company in the meanwhile. I think
Right.
that disconnect led to some degree of pain for the company and for the stakeholders, which lasted for, I would say, about a year or so, right? From, I would say, mid 2016, post some significant changes at some of our key shareholders. I think from that point on to middle of 2017, I think we went through this phase of management team and investors may not have been on the same page. Some investors may not have been on the same page with respect to the direction of the company. We were very clear for our reasons. The investors were also clear about their reasons why they wanted us to push for, negative margin GMV growth. But we were on different pages, right? And hence that precipitated discussions of, okay, then should we do some consolidation conversations, etc., in the market. So I would say till about middle of 2017, from middle of 2016 to middle of 2017, there was a lot of back and forth and led by fundamental misalignment on the direction that the company should take. Yeah. But I think the key, Jiten, in these things happen in all companies. Most companies that stand the test of time, and I'd like to believe that ours has more than many others. I feel that you got to embody the spirit that, look, you're going to go from to achieve eventual success. You have to go from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. So I think fortunately for us, while we were in a very, very tough spot in that 12-month period, we didn't lose our enthusiasm or spirit as a company or as entrepreneurs. We always felt that even though we may be at the bottom of the abyss right now, at this moment it can't get any lower. There is no deeper hole left to dig, and everyone sort of read out the verdict on you as a company, as entrepreneurs.
Right.
Personally, like I think everyone has a view on in such situations. But when you're at the bottom of the abyss, having just mustering that last amount of courage to continue um, is so immensely powerful in enabling you to come out of that abyss. And you realize the moment you come out of it, actually things are not that bad. And when you were in the abyss, you actually learned so much. You learned how you should build your business better, potentially. You learn how you should manage your relationships better. You learn who your friends are, truly, which I would say is the biggest learning. Because you feel, you realize when you're seen to be completely down and out, a lot of people who seemingly were your well-wishers and friends are nowhere to be found.
Right.
They are not available anymore to help you. They are not answering your calls. They are not responding to your emails as frequently as they used to earlier. Right? The messages on WhatsApp go unread for days and weeks. So having seen both the to's and fro's of many relationships along the way, I would say the biggest learning for me was truly identifying true relationships. The relationships where, I feel that I feel that there comes a time when you have to stop crossing oceans for people who won't even jump a puddle for you, right?
Right.
So, and I think these times make you realize that, and that those are great, like immense learnings for a lifetime.
Yeah.
So,
Not
so
that.
that's the quick summary. That's a quick summary of that period, I would say.
No, so definitely, Kunal. I must say that the startup fields are like battlefields, and you can't sort of go into the war and come out saying that I did not get any bruise or any wound. That means you did not fight the war. So so clearly, I can totally relate to it. What you're saying. So I think there was this, and you said you touched upon this topic that the investors wanted consolidation and you sort of just skipped the detailing. So I'm kind of going into the detailing, making you feel sort of pushing you to the boundary actually. So I think there was this strong, I would not say rumor, there was a strong confirmation by media that the Snapdeal and Flipkart are merging, and and the way media reported that the deal was almost done, and it was sort of Kunal saying yes, and the deal is done, and I think so. From that yes to no, or maybe from fence to no, what were the considerations? Like that was a surprise, to be honest. Sitting outside on the audience table, I was like, Kunal is gonna say yes, and literally that was my feeling. And suddenly I hear no. So what were your considerations?
Yeah, I think, look, at the end of the day, the media will represent things the way they understand them. And both you and I know that they obviously work with the facts available to them, which may or may not be fully accurate.
Right.
There are obviously a lot of half truths in there. I'm not saying they intentionally put out half truths, but look, they have a job to do to report, and they report basis what they've heard. I think, look, I don't think things are ever that clear, Jitin, that it was, I wish I had that type of influence and power that I just say yes and something happens, and I wish I had that type of influence. Um, and, things are always told a certain way in the press, and that's fine. You kind of live with it and move on. No point in belaboring what was said or what was not said and whether it was accurate or whether it was not accurate. I think our viewpoint was very simple. Our viewpoint back then, without getting into the innards of confidential details or
Yeah.
confidential conversations, but our viewpoint was that, look, either if you have to get something done, let's get it done, or let's not drag it on and unnecessarily create more stress in the company and amongst the team. And
Hmm.
either let's get it done or let's get back to building the business. Let's not stay in this state of suspended animation for many, many months. It had already been many, many months, like maybe
Right.
7 months, I think. And I don't think we were that far along as it was painted out to be. I think we were still ways apart in terms of something happening versus something not happening. So I feel that in hindsight, just in these type of very high pressure situations, being incredibly decisive is most important. Just decide one way or the other.
Right.
You'll be surprised when incredibly smart people around the table in any company, not just ours, in
Yeah.
any company, when encountered with a very critical decision, um, how it's hard to rally folks in one direction, because everyone, for good reason on their part, believes in one thing versus the other. And then in the end, what one has to do nonetheless is just decide. So I think what we were able to do, which I think, I don't know if it was represented accurately or inaccurately. Honestly, it doesn't even matter. It's too far back
Right.
now. I think what we were able to do, Rohit and I, was get almost all shareholders and definitely our board to decide one way or the other,
Got
right?
it.
After many months of being in limbo of sorts, because we knew that whichever way we decide, then we'll work on that, right? Like, so in this case, obviously we decided to continue building the company, which was okay, completely okay with us. We knew it would be incredibly challenging given the company had gone through a fairly sort of a brutalizing period for a few months, right? And everyone had an opinion about us, and everyone had hammered us around or kicked us around. It was not easy, not easy. Like, there were long faces in the office. Many of our team members chose to not come to office because they weren't sure whether they'll have a job or not. But I think step by step, brick by brick, day by day, meeting by meeting, we aligned everyone to a longer term vision for the company. We were very transparent and communicated openly about the challenges we had, the amount of money we had, whether we had enough, what the risks were. So that at no point anybody tells us, our team members tell us that, look, you're not being transparent with all the facts. I'm willing to take a bet on you as the entrepreneurs. I'll continue to believe in you, but you got to come clean with me. Right. And I
Right.
think one of the tenets in our company has always been acute amount of transparency. And more so, I would say, over the last 3 years. And I think that helped us tremendously over the next few months to come out of that situation.
So Kunal is so true about the decision making and especially the tough decision making either way. I always tell my friends that on a lighter note though, that running a startup is like playing a poker. So you have like two cards in hands and you don't know what's going to unfold on the table, but you still have to make a decision for the betting, whether you want to bet or you don't want to bet. So I think it's like equally as an entrepreneur, you know few things. You don't know what future holds for you, but you got to decide. You got to play the game. So I think that's how I see personally. So very, very apt you said.
The worst thing you can do is not decide. You know,
That's right.
who knows? Like if we had taken the other path, if everyone agreed, maybe that would have been okay too. Who knows, right? Like nobody knows. But one thing is very certain: if you don't decide, you will die.
You will die for sure. Yeah, so true. So Kunal, on that note, you mentioned that transparency has been one of the moat which sort of worked for you with your team members. I'm still very curious. When people join your team, you sort of show them all the good side of the value creation and how things will unfold and all of that. And suddenly, when you sort of go through this situation, which when people make decisions, they don't factor in. And I'm talking about the team members. They don't
Right.
factor in bad time. They always factor in good times.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you deal with your employees specifically? What did you tell them when this 2016 phase and the Flipkart deal you decided not to go through, and you sort of wanted to rebuild the whole company? Like, what did you tell your employees? How did you gain confidence back or trust in your ability to now run the business differently and better way?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Jitin. I think first and foremost, it was ensuring that there are enough forums where there was communication happening between us and the team members very directly. So we were
Hmm.
doing weekly town halls, we were doing group discussions every day, we were doing one-on-ones. I was talking to the parents of our employees, right? So there was nothing that we did not do to maximize, like over communicate of here's the plan, here is the risk to the plan, here's what our expectation out of you is, here's your expectation out of us. Please tell us what part you don't agree with, and let's talk about it openly in front of everyone. And if you don't feel comfortable, please come privately also, we'll talk. So I think all we did, like 15, 16 hours a day, out of 15, 16 hours we were in the office those days, maybe 10, 12 hours we were only communicating. That's it, right? I think our team needed, after months of, as I said, being brutalized as a company and as people, they needed to hear from us. They needed to
Right.
hear very clearly, okay, what the plan is, what has happened. We can't change that. Let's not apportion blame here because that's not going to change anything. Let's focus on what we need to do now and whether we have a good plan to get there or not, and how each one of us will contribute towards it. So and look, every time we go through tough periods, I remember during the lockdown 4 or 5 months ago, suddenly everything went to zero, right? Like overnight.
Right.
I remember we did a town hall then with the team, and I told all our team members that look, when we hired you, when we brought you on board, we imagined days like today, right? We didn't hire you only for the good times,
Right.
right? We hired you for today when things are tough. And I think everyone felt very inspired by that. That look, we believe in in their abilities enough that we don't believe that they are good team members only in the good times. We believe
Right.
in capabilities enough that we believe that they are great team members in the worst of times. So,
Absolutely well said.
and I think, and we take huge amount of pride in how we recruit. Most folks don't know, but the average tenure in our company is 5 year, over 5 years actually. That's the average, right?
Wow.
In the tech ecosystem,
Two,
you know,
one and a half, 2 years, 1.5 years, man.
it's a revolving door. Uh,
Right.
many team members. Like I would say more than 50% of the new folks we recruit are returning Snapdeal team members, right? So if whenever I post anything, any article on LinkedIn, etc., in the comments I see so many ex team members say that we want to come back. We've never worked at a company like this before, etc. And this is despite all the challenges we've had as a company, all the good times as well as the not so good times. So I think we have if there's one thing we're truly proud about is the culture we have. And that culture is predicated on transparency, on empowerment, no micromanagement, like unlocking people's potential. I think it's these basic tenets around which we built the company. And I think that is the single biggest reason why we made it through arguably one of the toughest periods any startup in our country is faced in now.
Right. No, so well said. Actually, you're absolutely right, Kunal. The culture is the one thing which sort of binds the company together. And if that is screwed, that is the one thing which can break the company. And we have seen enough examples of late, in terms of the cab hailing company in US and all of that, right? Where just because the cultural issues, how the well-performing companies sort of went down and issues came in.
Sure, yeah.
So I think on that note, uh, like in last 2 years, you turned profits from such humongous losses. So like, how did you achieve this? This seems like a dream story for any entrepreneur. This seems like unbelievable, also, by the way. So how did you achieve this?
Yeah, I think, I mean, just to be clear, we achieved profitability in some of the months, and then we chose to reinvest our margins into growth because we feel there's a lot of opportunity to grow. But we believe that we are now in control of the levers in our business to turn profitable at will. And if we are not profitable, it's truly by choice. And
Sure.
it's no longer the positioning that, yeah, we can be profitable when we want to be. We've actually become profitable and then said, okay, now we believe that we ourselves believe we can be profitable when we want to be. But I think, Jiten, the bigger surprise people had was how come, like people used to ask me until recently, how come your guys are still alive? And I
Yeah.
think people had a more basic question than that. That you guys haven't raised money for years, right?
Right.
You thought you were already bankrupt in 2017. And I have not bought from you, right? Like you get all kinds of questions which
Yeah.
are even more carnal and existential in nature, let alone the very positively positioned question that you asked, right? And I feel that the most important thing that we did, probably much better than we ever did before, was brought in an incredible amount of focus and discipline in our execution. Where focus is sometimes misunderstood as doing few things. It's actually not about doing few things. It's about doing a lot of the few things that matter.
Mm.
And I think just picking what few things we will focus on and then go incredibly deep on those. And we'll figure out after a year or two if those bets were right or not. But we will pick very wisely, pick very few things, and then the whole company will be aligned and dedicated in the pursuit of just making those work. And the list can't be longer than 2, 3, 4 items. Our entire company, from Rohit and me down to everyone in the company, is has the same, pretty much the same goal sheet. So you wake up anyone in our team at 3 a.m. in the morning, they'll likely tell you. You ask them what are the goals of the company, they'll tell you exactly what the goals are, and they are not vanity metrics. They are not meant to create the success theater around the company. They are like old, boring revenue margin, those type of uh,
Boring
metrics.
conversations. Yeah.
And then I think all of them, then everyone has projects at an individual and team level. Very few projects which are aligned to focusing on those metrics. Doesn't mean that we are always successful in everything we
Right.
pursue, We are, let's be clear, our company operates in the most competitive e-commerce market on the planet that the planet has ever seen. And we are up against multiple companies with infinite balance sheets. Yet we are, successfully coexisting in this market. So I think there is probably, I would say, some credit that our extended team can also take for being able to, for having been pulled off something like this. I feel that it all boils down to Jiten, as I said, just focus. Our company, we don't do many things. We don't make lots of grand announcements. We actually do minimal PR. We are very inward focused now and have been so for the last 3 years. It's rarely I come and do these interactions.
Right. No, I know, and I'm thankful to you for that.
Not for that, but I think it's just we are in a good place, right? As a company, as a team, as entrepreneurs, like in our mind space, we are in a good place where we know what we are doing. We know where we need to improve and fix things. We know what we are doing well as well, right? And we don't feel the need to talk about it.
Right.
But I think if there were maybe a couple of things I focused, like our team, Rohit and I, and broader management team has focused most on last couple of years, is clearly articulating what our focus areas are, and then incredible amount of communication to the broader team about what those focus areas are, why they are there, and how we are tracking against them in an incredibly transparent manner at rapid frequency. I think this is all we did, to be honest. I think a lot has been written and said about, biggest turnaround ever, this, that. I think people have been very generous and kind, and as have you been. But when we look back, when I look back, I think I've spent 0 minutes thinking about the 2016 to 2017 phase. I think there's no point in ruminating about that period. It happened. Some parts were good, some parts were bad, but it is what it is. Spend all our time thinking about what we need to do now so that we can build a lasting, enduring company going forward.
Great, Kunal. With such candid answers, I think now I should move to the few lighter questions to you, because I must say personally, I'm very, very inspired by listening the war room stories, what went into your mind, how do you take decisions, the setting up the culture. So a few rapid fire questions. The first question is, what is the one advice, considering now you are a veteran in startup industry, one advice you'll give to founders and one advice for me? So it's effectively 2 questions I'm asking.
Oh, okay. I think it's very hard to do these one advice question. Actually, I mean, I also ask for advice all the time from people I admire, respect. I called you last week for advice on something as well. I would say 2 pieces of advice which are very similar to what I just said, which is, culture is not about free food, high-paying salaries or overpaid salaries or lots of ESOPs. I think culture is about having a sense of purpose and then communicating that purpose very actively. So I think just continuing to do that from day one. I think I was mistaken what good. I always thought we had a great culture. But I think in hindsight, we had a good culture. We didn't have a bad culture, we had a good culture. We now have a great culture. We have an incredible culture. That I can say very, very confidently. And I think, it's taken a tremendous amount of emotional and physical and intellectual investment.
Right, I can relate that.
Days I feel absolutely drained, where I feel all my energy has been spent on ensuring that I'm infusing it into the culture. But then I go to sleep and I wake up and then I realize I have new energy now. So I do recharge, I think, which is good. I think that's one. And the second is just focus. I think there is a lot of celebration that often happens in the startup ecosystem when companies launch new things, do new things, make big announcements, do large fundraisers. We've been the beneficiary of that also, to be honest. But at the same time, I feel that sort of the best companies are built mostly fairly quietly, and with a tremendous amount of focus. Now, obviously, if you're a consumer brand like we are, Jupiter is, you are going to do some outward communication, right?
Right.
Like you're building a deep tech company, maybe it was fine. So you got to do as much as you need to do to build a company because that's your fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders, to your team members, to yourself. But not too much, and definitely not create initiatives in the company with the objective of getting, sort of public recognition. So I think
Right.
huge amount of focus on discipline on a few things that matter, and then just chipping away at it. And there'll be quarters in a row where things will be going bad, and then there'll be quarters in a row where things will be going good. As long as over a long enough period of time there is enough positive displacement that has happened, it's okay to cover a lot of zigzag distance along the way.
Interesting. Thanks for the answer. And okay, so the lighter rapid fire questions. Who is your favorite entrepreneur? And why do you call that guy as your favorite?
I think there isn't only one. I think there are many that I admire for different sets of reasons. Right? I think I admire Sunil Mittal a lot. Right? For Airtel, like as a first generation entrepreneur, he's built an incredible brand, incredibly enduring company that has endured so many challenges.
Yeah.
I uh, I admire Jeff Bezos. Look what an incredible company he has built.
Right.
Uh, like I don't think e-commerce would have existed in its shape or form if it weren't for his thought leadership and continued thought leadership. Um, so I think there are many entrepreneurs I admire just for different set of reasons. I admire Uday Kotak tremendously.
Yeah. He's my favorite as well.
As a first generation entrepreneur, he has built such an incredibly high trust institution in just a 20, 25-year period. It is, and he has gone through his share of ups and downs. And I think I find all these stories incredibly inspiring for the reason that they built great businesses, but also for the reason at least for I know two of the three to some extent that I mentioned, and just having heard their own personal journey and trials and tribulations along the way, I just find them so incredibly inspiring.
Truly. No, I totally agree. And I think I asked this question earlier also, the third question which I'm going to ask, and you somehow dug it. So I'm going to ask it again today. If it was not e-commerce, then what would you see doing? Which kind of business you see starting?
Um, I think I remember you asked this like 1 week into the lockdown. I,
Yeah.
I was thinking, let me first think a little bit about my business where the revenues are down to zero. Then I can think.
Yeah, you dug it well that time.
Um, I, I I think it's continues to be a hard one. I for some reason I do feel that humans don't understand healthcare as well as they should. Right? We understand a lot of other things much better. And if I had the skill, probably that's probably one industry that I've started to find very intriguing. Just health and nutrition in general.
Right.
There is when I go to a doctor, the amount of guesswork that the doctor is doing. And, as an entrepreneur, if there is one skill you gain along the way is looking into people's eyes and really seeing what's in their soul, and to some degree, figuring out are they being actually truthful and honest, or are they making stuff up, etc. And I feel half the time the doctors are just making stuff up and just going by hit and trial and all that. So I feel that in today's world with the amount of data available, there is likely a better way to just diagnose and treat disease.
Right.
Like my daughter a few months ago had a skin infection, and this is when this realization occurred to
Yeah.
me. We were running from pillar to post, talking to various, this is a world-renowned dermatologist, Delhi-renowned, Mumbai-renowned dermatologist, etc. And everyone was just doing guesswork, and they were very convinced with their guesswork. And that made me realize that actually maybe none of them know what to do. Fortunately, and she became okay, and one of the treatments worked. But it just made me realize that I think at this level of evolution of data science, human intellect, we surely should have better solutions than depending on the wisdom of one or two humans to treat a disease that others probably have had before.
Yeah, I completely agree. Not the Theranos kind of one, but but yeah, definitely the better one, considering the AI which has sort of come into real play now. Last question to you, Kunal. So I think with this direct overseas listing now becoming a reality, which was sort of every entrepreneur's wish list. Do you see Snapdeal opting for IPO anytime soon or anytime in next few years?
I think that seems like the eventual outcome for us. I mean, we are a fairly sizable business. I think we don't talk about it externally often, but last year over 30 million people bought from Snapdeal, right? At least once. It's a pretty large number if you think about people
Yeah,
getting to us. And look, we don't do any major TV advertising, print advertising, nothing. This is purely driven, and these are each and every transaction is where we would have made money on a transaction, right? So this is not through subsidies. So obviously we have considerable scale and good margins and sizable revenues, etc., and a fantastic team, great set of investors. So I think we have a lot of boxes checked, and we are aware of that. But we are also in no rush as such, right? I think there will come a time when the time would be right, the market conditions would be right, and we are also feeling good about the predictability of our business. I feel that to go public, you need to have a high degree of predictability of
right,
the revenue, the levers of growth in your business and levers of profitability in your business. As time progresses, hopefully with every passing quarter, our comfort with the predictability in our business will improve. And as it improves, hopefully we will, draw closer to that boundary line. But there's no real pressure as such. Like I'm not putting any
right.
pressure on myself or our team, neither are our shareholders. I think it will happen when it has to happen. And I don't want to do this. I've seen companies in our space, and maybe we've done some of it in the past, almost very naively. That every 2-3 years they come out and say, now our IPO is coming next year, and then forget about it, and then 3 years later again they say, now our IPO is coming next.
Yeah,
I'm certain when we say it, we will be ready, right? Else we won't.
right. No, absolutely. And Kunal, I really want to thank you for a great conversation we had. And I'm sensitive of your time, but if you allow me, can I take like one or two questions from audience? Sahil, do you see any questions from audience?
Yeah, so I think we have a couple of questions from the audience.
So Sahil, I'll just say only two because let's be sensitive of Kunal's time.
Yeah, so I think the first one was like pretty, convincing, and a lot of people had asked for it, which was, what are the things that you would do differently, Kunal, if you had to, restart, or if you went back into the past, what are the things that you would do differently? I think it was covered in a bits and pieces, but let me kind of ask anyways, because a lot of people had asked this. We had kind of, asked for a voting as well. So I think that was one of the questions that kind of came along again and again.
Yeah, I'll take that first. So I feel, again, unfortunately, I don't offer a lot of variety in my answers. Maybe that's a good thing because at least you can give me some points for intellectual consistency. Um, I feel if I were to look back, from day one, I would say from like we started our company 13 years ago. If there's one thing I would want to, I won't say we did it's not like we didn't follow this, but I think we could have followed it as much. If we had followed it as much as we do now, maybe we could have done even better. Is just focus, right? Ensuring that you just solve like one large problem at a time, and even within that, have only a few projects and initiatives to drive that. Rather than spreading yourself and your team too thin, particularly when you're in the early stages of a business. I mean, I do fairly active investing. Rohit and I have invested in over 100 companies now over the last 9 years. And if there is one piece of feedback, advice, guidance that we keep repeating over and over again is about the value of focus. We are very fortunate and proud investors in Jupiter also.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have you on board, Kunal.
To Jitain, but Jiten is already a very seasoned and wise entrepreneur. So we've never had to share this with Jiten. But I can tell you, we find ourselves sharing this piece of guidance most often with most entrepreneurs that we are partnered.
Great. Sahil, another one.
Yeah, I think as you said, intellectual consistency. I think I really like that, because it again like focuses you to think hard on a couple of things, and those become your fundamentals, and you kind of build on it. So really like that. Second question, I think, is mostly around the ecosystem. You mentioned about coexisting a little bit, in the previous answers, that we are coexisting with the most competitive space, right? So I think the question was around, okay, with the geo's entry in the e-commerce, like what is the future of the ecosystem? Will it be hybrid, offline and online kind of mixed model, or it will be purely online heavy, because behaviors have shifted as well, right? Specifically after lockdown situations. So what is your take on the whole ecosystem? How do you kind of go about it? What are you kind of doing? And some views on the whole piece itself.
Sure. I don't think we change our strategy by week or month. I think that would be completely intellectually inconsistent with what I've been saying all along. So I think we continue to be focused on maintaining and growing our leadership position in the value retail segment. Right? So we are very focused on the mid to low end of the income demographic in the small towns, selling low value, good quality regional brands. Right? That's really as crisp an articulation I can have of what we do. What we don't do is we don't sell expensive items like smartphones, TVs, washing machines, or 10,000 rupee shoes, etc. Because our belief is the Indian consumers are incredibly smart and value seeking, and they will find the cheapest place for the high value transactions, which means that the marketplace will never make money. And so, and over a period of time, by focusing on islands of profitability in our business, which means categories and merchandise where we can make money, we built carved out a very good space for ourselves where we have significant scale and momentum and capabilities that we've built, specific to cater to the buyers and sellers of this particular space. Now, and that said, I think let's be very clear, the e-commerce penetration in India as a percentage of retail is, people argue between whether it's 2 or 3 or 4, but let's take even if it's 4, there is 96% of retail that is still happening offline in India, and most developed countries are well into the 20s, right? China, US, etc., well into the 20s, and particularly during this period, maybe double of that. Let's say even if they are in 20 at steady state, we have such a long way to go as a company, as a country, where we have such incredible tailwinds, where we'll soon have 1 billion people on the internet over the next few years. And we have e-commerce penetration of retail at less than 5%. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out, that in a country where long tail supply chains are broken and likely are not going to get fixed, where items don't reach the small towns and there is not a lot of assortment or selection available. There's a huge market that will support multiple players. Now, that said, I think if you want to play in cash burning categories like grocery, etc., then chances are you need very deep pockets, which many of the players you mentioned have, and I think they will pursue that. We are not pushing for those categories because we believe that we don't have a right to win because we don't have those balance sheets. But we feel we have a right to win in the categories we play in the segment we play in. And hence we focus all our energy only on serving those customers and sellers.
Great. Thanks, Sahil, for taking the questions. And Kunal, I want to thank you formally as well. Really appreciate your time on Friday evening away from the family time. So, but I must say that so much to learn from you, so much to sort of get inspired that how to sail through the tough times. And I think I'm like fortunate to have you on my journey. So I would definitely ping you time and again whenever I get stuck, irrespective. So thank you again. Can't thank you enough.
Thanks, Jiten. Thanks. You've been very kind, and thank you, Sahil, and thank you to everyone who joined. Thanks.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah.